My name is Melissa Melero, Paiute from Reno Sparks, Indian Colony. I live on the Hungry Valley Reservation. I'm enrolled with the Fallon Paiute Shoshone out of Fallon, Nevada. I've been living in Reno almost my whole life, and then I came to Santa Fe to go to IAI, Institute of American Indian Arts, here in Santa Fe in early 90s, and majored in photography, dance, modern dance with Rosalie Jones, and a couple of those programs fell through, and I ended up doing painting, which I was sort of doing anyway. My family is a family of artisans, so you know, everybody does beadwork, regalia making, metalwork, jewelry, and so and basket making, of course. And I dabble in all of that, but I also was very interested in painting at a very young age. We're known for our basketry. We're known for our cradle boards and beadwork, and a lot of the stuff that I do, I'm inspired by that, as well as the region, the landscape, and I sort of intertwine those things in my work on two-dimensional surfaces. So I'll take the basketry, I'll take the different colors that remind me of home, and I sort of intertwine them onto my 2D surfaces. I got started as, I guess, oil painter, figurative, just to be painting, and it took me a while to find my my medium. But when I did come here in the early 90s and started IAIA, I was taking photography and painting and a couple of different other classes, and eventually I combined my photography with my painting, and that's, I think, when I started working in 2D and building up of 3D objects. I was putting photographs on there. Then I started putting just really thick medium, and all the time I had you know, things that inspired me in my studio: basketry, willows, the tufa rocks that are found out in Pyramid Lake, where I'm from, and our shells, our jewelry and stuff. And I was trying to find a way to incorporate, if not the image, just, you know, something. And of course, I'm thinking in abstract mode. I'm trying to enlarge it or miniaturize it or something. And what eventually just started happening was, I'm just going to put the objects on there and it will evolve from there, and it sort of did. And I mean, I'm really excited about this medium because I've been working with putting the willow, cattails, because we're called the cattail eaters from Fallon, Takata, so it's we're the cattail eaters, so it's perfect that I'm putting cattails on there, and then willow, which is what we make the basketry from. And also from my inspiration from our area where I'm from, walking, you know, taking walks, gathering things, sticks, leaves, rocks. I started incorporating all kinds of different organic objects and pine nuts onto the canvas. Nevada pine nuts, where we come from, they're pretty fat, so there's like these unusual protrusions on the canvas. And then I just sort of arrange them in different, whether it be basketry design, basketry, weaving, or sort of an abstraction of that. This piece is called Tatsu. It means summer in Paiute, and it has the cattails on there. And my bubble design for this piece, they're symbolizing water. In the marshland that I'm from. We're known for our duck decoys, which we make from the cattail, the tule reed. It's just a beautiful sort of marsh area in the wet season. Lots of different mediums that I apply to this particular kind of work, and a build-up of the cattails themselves. Lots of washes, paint, washes, varnish, papers. I am kind of just starting a basket, a more intensive basket series. I've been working on a basket series for years, but since I'm here, and why I came out here was to look at their basketry collection. And the designs that I get to see are a plus, but what I'm mostly looking at is just the weaving and how I'm going to sort of abstract the different types of weaving and seeing the baskets up close. Something I don't get to do back home on a regular basis. I see baskets, but you know, it's only when on special occasions, when we have an art exhibit or I go to the museum or something like that. So I don't have any very many baskets at home that I can really examine, and so by being here at SAR, I've been able to just really get up close and personal. And one thing that I realized that I wasn't examining before is like the fuzziness of the willow and the texture that makes, and that's really contributing to this particular series, which I'm putting. I'm still lining up the willow. I'm adding basketry design and also just finding my own sort of forms of abstracting all of those designs and putting them on this sort of rectangular, 2D surface, even though it's almost like 3D objects, that I'm sort of building up. This piece is directly related to the research that I've been doing here with the basket collection and the use of sort of abstracting the basket weave, the particular geometric design that are in some of the pieces in the collection, and the amazing books that I get to check out of the library here at SAR. Just sort of taking the basketry design and enlarging it and abstracting it and using the texture of the basketry and interweaving it. And this is really the beginning of this design series that I'm really excited about working on. I recently founded the Great Basin Native Artists Group. I was living here in Santa Fe, sort of on and off, and I just moved back home about 5 years ago in 2010. And after coming straight from Santa Fe, I was in desperate need of the art community, and I got involved with the Reno art scene in Nevada, and I was just looking for Native artists. I knew there was Native artists around. I had met them, I had interacted with them and done shows with them, but it was really sporadic how the art community was working with the Native community out there. We started this group. I'm a contributing writer for First American Art magazine, and so I asked America Meredith, I was like, can we do some articles on some, of the artists that I know of out there? And it's really on its, first legs right now, zero funding. We've been going for a year, but we curated about, I want to say 8 shows just in 1 year, which was crazy. But it was a blast, and it was, really informative for the Indian community and the non-Indian community just to see all of this art. They were so excited about seeing the art. So this piece, I've been dabbling with this idea, and it actually is inspired from kind of Santa Fe jewelry, but also a mix of the petroglyphs in our area in Fallon, Nevada, and it's got the pine nuts on there in the center of the circles. It's just a very abstract design, and Pyramid Lake with the colors of the turquoise of the lake. And this is a good example of abstracting design that I do regularly. The texture, lots of papers, lots of washes, and just layers of different sort of mediums. There's not really a formula or anything that I use. I just sort of layer stuff on until I like how it looks. This is a triptych that I'm working on. This is inspired by the SAR collection. When you first walk into the basket collection, there's a couple of basket starts, which look like little suns with rays of the willow sticking out in this circle. And I didn't really go in the circle direction, but just sort of how the willow was sticking out. I love that, and I abstracted, I guess, that idea and put it into this triptych with the basket weaves in the center, the designs in the center, and then on the two edges having the willow just sort of branching out into all these little different directions. Lots of papers, mediums, the willow branches, and then these very thin layers of color of wash that I'm going to be putting on to finish. One of the ways how I got started with lining up the willow just sort of vertically was, and how I started doing that was when after my son was born, and the whole family got together and contributed to making his cradle board. And when we first started, you know, the sort of frame part of the cradle board is, you know, has the lined up vertical willow sticks, you know, just pure form. And then you put the buckskin on and you sort of tie the pieces together, and the hood is made from willow, and then the buckskin you put on, and then I did the beadwork for his hood area and stuff, and it was, you know, it was so inspiring. I was painting at the time. I was working on just sort of abstract petroglyph and beadwork sort of designs, and when we started putting this cradle board together for my son, and he's 13 now, so this was 13 years ago, it was so inspiring. Like I really wanted to incorporate that design and sort of abstract it and get it into, you know, the paintings, and that's how I started sort of putting the willow and objects on there more often, and working with other or different organic objects. So of course I contribute my, you know, the birth of my son to a lot of the art that I do, and then a lot of his when he started scribbling and making his little masterpieces, I was like, ooh, that's cool, you know, like, I like those dot designs and stuff. So a lot of just sort of random abstractions that I use is stuff that he gave me ideas of when he was a toddler, you know. This is like a squirt of paint, and we'll make bottles of this stuff, and we get the area wet. And when you think about it, that's what they do when they're making baskets. They're keeping the willow wet. This is really beginning stage of getting the color on there, because this whole other stage of getting the buildup and the willow in there and the papers and the medium is just like really many layers. And so this I'll spread out, and I'm probably going to do at least 20 more. And then I also need to find the right color combination eventually. Sometimes I'll almost have something finished that'll have like 30 layers of paint on there, and I just don't like it. And I will white it all out and start over again, and that's what makes for really great, even better texture. When I first started to put the willow on there, which was inspired by my son's cradle board, I just felt sort of insecure about just gluing willow to my canvases. I was like, I need something. And so I get the paint on there, and then I don't really like to see the brush strokes in there because I'm going to put so many different layers on there. So I'll get it back in there with the water and my hands. And there's tons of water involved. And I think that's what helps, just sort of, it creates its own design, like the water falling into the crevices of the texture and stuff, and how it falls in there. It almost looks like leather. And this is going to be a protective layer before I put a different gloss varnish on. I was using like a lacquer that was kind of yellowing the surface, which actually looked really great, but probably a good, I would say maybe 20 years into that painting, it's gonna get really dark. And so now I just want them to be a little bit more protected. This particular high gloss varnish has all of that sort of art store protective stuff in there, UV rays, and just keeps a good protective layer on there so that it lasts. It's always in the back of your mind, especially when people are, you know, collecting. All of this stuff is just really minimal versions. I just spread it all out with water, and I can work on really large surfaces. And that is not something you would normally do when you put a varnish on, because it'll totally mess up the surface. But I like the effect. It's always like all of these mixing of water. Sometimes I'll spray alcohol on there. I'll put sand on there, salt, and just get these really weird effects. And it just sort of adds to all of these different textures and surfaces. This will be the final varnish that I put on, and this is the one that I have the protective layer that I just put on, and this final varnish sort of just adds the color. I'll make different versions, lighter or darker, of this particular one. Since I'm applying it to this white and lighter color painting, I'm going to use a really dark amber, which I just love. And then this is what makes the shiny surface. It adds a little bit of texture too. Just sort of gives it that sort of old photograph. That's the photographer in me. So I'll probably let these dry, which will be barely 10 minutes, and I'll come back in with another layer, maybe make some spotty designs or something. This is just sort of experimenting. Like, I never know if it's gonna work or not. And if I mess it up, I have to start all over again. But that's how it goes in the art world. But I like to see the interaction of how the remover it makes another layer of texture and sort of gloss to this whole surface. It's just denatured alcohol. That's what I thin the varnish with, clean my brush with, and I also thin the varnish. I add it to the varnish to make it last longer too, for larger surfaces. It's been awesome. I mean, of course, the studio is just amazing. It's beautiful, it's big, lots of space to spread out. The surrounding, the atmosphere around here is very much a contributing factor to being happy and comfortable, and the work just flowed. I mean, literally day one, I was in the collections and did my research and got my blank canvases going, and I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. Everything just flowed out. It was great, and still is. And then they're gonna have to drag me, kicking and screaming. I have my friends here and the art community that I'm involved with. I've been doing Indian market for 10 years, since 2005. And it was, just like coming to my other home, and being around this landscape and stuff is just very inspiring too.